Welcome to this explainer on the Court Fool's Almanac. We're diving straight into a truly wild and fascinating text by Mark Vonnegut Voltaire. The setup? It's brilliant. You've got a riverboat gambler named Jed who hauls a cheap secondhand pawn shop cassette recorder down to a riverbank, and there he just interviews God, the devil, and eventually entropy herself. It's this incredible, hilarious, and deeply moving look at grief, free will, and the behind-the-scenes mechanics of how the cosmos actually operates.
God doesn't play dice with the universe. He plays three-card Monty, and he's very good at palming the queen. That quote really nails the whole vibe we're dealing with here. We've got an absentee God who gets distracted way too easily, a completely burned-out devil who feels totally obsolete in the modern world, and just a regular mortal man trying to make sense of human suffering. So let's jump right in and look at how the universe is supposedly being managed.
Act 1. The Management and the Bureaucracy.
Okay, if you've ever felt like your prayers were just put on hold, well, according to Jed's cassette tapes, they literally are. The divine bureaucracy is staggeringly backed up. And to get a sense of why, just consider the number 350,000. See, God casually admits he got a little sidetracked designing 350,000 different species of beetles. He calls every single one of them a small private joke he told himself. But, while he was hyper-fixated on iridescent shells, humanity was down here dealing with plagues, cholera, and suffering. He just lost track of time.
And when we humans actually do ask for divine help, well, those prayers get jammed in a filing cabinet roughly the size of a moon. Oh, and it comes with a 400-year processing delay. 400 years!
Just peeking into the heavenly margins shows you how hopelessly backlogged this system really is. Take a whale, for instance. It requested a formal apology for some unspecified biblical incident, and it has been completely ghosted for 3 centuries. Meanwhile, you've got a grieving woman from Toledo asking for a simple explanation for her mother's passing, and her file just gets endlessly escalated from one column to another. Literally everyone is just waiting on the paperwork to clear. So how on earth does the Creator justify being this hands-off? 2 words: free will. But here's the catch. In this massive bureaucratic nightmare, free will isn't exactly presented as this beautiful, poetic gift. It's essentially a liability waiver. It's God's plausible deniability clause, notarized all the way back in Eden, giving him a pass on responsibility for all of humanity's catastrophic messes. He built the machine, sure, but he stepped back so he wouldn't have to keep his thumb on the scales.
Act 2. The Miracle Budget Cuts. Now, if management is this distracted and hands-off, what happened to the big stuff? The grand biblical miracles, parting the seas, burning bushes, all of that? Well, God explains to Jed that the theatrics just cost way too much in overhead. I mean, think about the tidal calculations and all the displaced fish involved in parting a sea. Once the human population skyrocketed, the miracle budget faced severe cuts. So they downsized. The new budget was scaled back to human kindness and pure coincidences. But, and this is absolutely crucial, God insists they both pull from the exact same account.
The stranger's kindness was never a substitute for the miracle. The stranger's kindness was the miracle. It completely forces us to reframe our expectations, right? The miracle isn't some flashy magic trick anymore. It's that enduring, everyday human decency carried out by human hands. Because at the end of the day, that is the only kind of miracle that scales up, and it's the only kind built to actually last.
Act 3. Entropy and the Cosmic Wound.
So if human empathy and connection are the real miracles, why does a supposedly all-knowing God bomb so spectacularly when he tries doing stand-up comedy for the angels? The devil actually steps in here to explain it. He says, funny is just a wound dressed up so it doesn't scare anyone off. And God? Well, God only has blueprints. He engineered all the friction in the universe, sure, but he's never actually had to live inside it and feel the ache. He knows the sheer mechanics of a joke, but without any personal vulnerability, without a real wound, his material falls totally flat. Nobody laughs at a blueprint.
It actually takes Jed, the mortal guy with the pawn shop recorder, to show them how it's done. Jed brings this empty folding chair into the comedy club, a chair that holds the memory of his late wife, Etta. And he tells a joke. But he doesn't joke about his grief, he jokes from inside his grief. He proves that real humor and true connection mean you have to hold the ache and the laugh in the exact same breath. It's this incredibly profound moment that leaves even God and the devil completely stunned.
And this deep dive into the cosmic ache brings us face to face with entropy. She's presented as this tired bartender, and honestly, she's arguably the loneliest force in the whole universe. While talking to Jed, she actually starts crying into a bar rag. Why? Because for 6,000 years, she's been blamed for the mathematical winding down of literally everything. Marriages, empires, dying stars. She has to watch them all end. But, as she tells him, I'm not malice. I'm just what happens to anything once it exists given enough time. She doesn't want things to end. She just enforces the math.
But even entropy privately admits there's an anomaly. Certain things, a perfectly timed kindness, a really good joke, a profound love, they somehow manage to outlast her mathematical decay. The math just doesn't balance out on them. And privately, the oldest, most inevitable force in the entire universe calls this phenomenon grace.
Act 4. The truth about the fall.
Okay, so if grace is found in true connection and shared truth, what happens when the universe's oldest adversaries finally sit down in the exact same room? For 6 millennia, all of history relied entirely on God's version of the story, that Lucifer fell because of sheer ambition, trying to grab the throne. But the devil finally gets to give his side of the story, and he says no, he didn't want the throne, he just wanted to be consulted. He reached past his boundaries simply because God never actually defined them. It wasn't a coup, it was a devastating failure of communication and management.
The devil hits him with this absolute gut punch of a line, trust without communication isn't trust, it's assumption. He basically argues that he got fired for failing to guess the boundaries of a job that didn't even come with a manual. God just assumed he'd figure it out, meaning the most epic cosmic war in all of history basically started over terrible workplace management.
And this is where the story pivots so beautifully, because God doesn't argue back. He just listens. He realizes that for 6,000 years, he told a story about the devil overreaching, while completely leaving out his own silence. And in this stunning turn of events, God actually apologizes. He doesn't erase the devil's ambition, but he expands the room so it can hold both of their truths. The devil finally feels his wound get addressed, and what follows is just this profound, recorded silence of shared understanding.
Conclusion: the peace of an ordinary afternoon.
So, what exactly happens after you resolve a 6,000-year-old cosmic feud? Do the heavens part? Do a choir of angels start singing? Actually, it's just normal. It's a surprisingly ordinary September afternoon on the riverbank, 72 degrees, a light breeze. God and the devil literally just sit around with Jed doing observational comedy about human alarm clocks. The universe's oldest feud ends in quiet peace. It shows us that true reconciliation often looks like simply sitting around discussing ordinary things, letting the new truth work quietly underneath without needing an audience.
And that leaves us with this incredibly powerful question to consider about our own lives. We've all got underdressed wounds, estranged relationships, and complex histories. If the universe's oldest feud can end by simply expanding the room to hold two truths, and then sitting in quiet peace by a river, what truths are you letting do their quiet work underneath? Where can you find your own moments of grace amidst the entropy? Think about that as you go about your day.